I guess when Trump reduces tariffs, it's a step in the right direction. But when Trump increases tariffs, it's also a step in the right direction. What the
I don't think you understand the point of this doctrine.
I don't understand whatever you're saying, because you're saying that it is a step in the right direction to reduce tariffs and to increase tariffs on the same country, on the same goods, at the same percent simultaneously. That doesn't make sense. Rocco, I will ask you one last time.
Okay.
You told me that they had bad policy that was devoid of common sense. So I'm merely asking you to name a single Biden and Harris policy built through Congress or EO into law that you thought was bad. If you can't do that, let me know and we can talk about something else, sir. I want to be here to serve you and your reasons why you voted for Trump. And if policy wasn't one of them, we can move on.
The ending of the majority of federal leases on new energy resource development, majority oil reserves, like oil fields and whatnot. And that's what led to the decline of our energy independence.
Great. There was a claim that's wrong, because they actually approved 50% more permits for drilling on federal land compared to Trump's administration. And under the Biden-Harris administration, we produce more oil than we ever has as a country, even when compared to Trump's. My evidence for this would be coming from the EIA, the Energy Information Administration, where you could see a very visual and engaging graph of the oil produced in America, crude oil, and you'll see how we produce significantly more under Biden and Harris compared to Trump's.
That's a flat-faced lie.
How much do you want to bet? Sorry, I'm being serious. How much money do you want to bet? If it's a bold-faced lie, here's your opportunity to make some fucking money, dude.
It is not literally this simple, but the first indication that we lost energy independence is the fact that gas prices.
I asked you how much money you want to bet.
I'm not betting money. I'm telling you.
Okay, why don't you want to bet money if I'm just telling you a bold-faced lie? I bet you $100 that it's not.
Number one, on the federal leases, this is the game that we play. They were signing more federal leases, but these were leases on land that couldn't be developed as profitably as the more, how should I put it, just easily profitable oil reserves.
Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you the exact figures here to combat the fact that you said I was giving you a bold-faced lie. So I said that there's more crude oil produced in America under Biden and Harris compared to Trump's first term. So the most oil that we ever produced under Donald Trump's first term was in November of 2019
Correct, when we achieved energy independence.
Nearly 13,000 barrels of oil per day. To be more specific, it was 12,994,000 barrels of oil per day. Meanwhile, under the Biden-Harris administration, in December of 2023, our country produced 13.3 thousand barrels of oil per day. And we were actually able to reach over 13,000 for multiple months in February of 2024, 13.1 thousand, March of 2024, 13.2 thousand, April of 2024, 13.3 thousand, May of 2024, 13.2 thousand, June of 2024, 13.3 thousand, July of 2024,
okay,
13.2 thousand.
I think we've got the point.
In August of 2024, 13.4 thousand, September of 2024, 13.1 thousand, October of 2024, 13.5 thousand, November of 2024, 13.4 thousand, December of 2024, 13.5 thousand. In fact, we were able to produce more oil in America for over a year under the Biden-Harris administration, comparing to 1 month under Donald Trump's administration.
Number one, we factually are not energy independent currently. So our energy requirements are continuing to increase. Number two, that was a massive correction to the previous 3 years of their administration. It is a fact that they froze federal leases on lands. In the vast majority of cases, for minimum 2 years, they killed the Keystone Pipeline project, which made no sense since it was already completed and only would have lowered gas prices. So we can talk about, we're producing more oil, yet the cost of oil is not decreasing, and that's because the demand for energy is still higher than what is being produced.
I need to correct you. Under the Biden-Harris administration, month by month, We only produced more and more oil each month. Okay. They entered in to the presidency after oil production had been shut down in 2020 because of the pandemic. Under Trump, by the way. And then they just continually increased production more and more and more and more. The reason why
It was not a conscious choice by Trump.
the reason why gas prices were high under Biden and Harris's administration had nothing to do with Biden, had nothing to do with Harris, and in fact had nothing to do with America because, you know, you're an educated guy, you'll know that oil is a global market, and we had complete recesses in global production. One reason why is Trump brokered a deal with OPEC to reduce their production by 10% before he left office. A second reason why was because of our sanctions on Russian oil that cut the global supply by a bit. So our
Are you
country was doing
suggesting that we
very
should be
good.
buying more oil from Saudi Arabia?
Am I suggesting that I never made any type of like I never suggested anything. I'm just telling you the facts that the Biden-Harris administration did very well with the domestic oil market, but the reason we had like still yet high gas prices was because of the global oil market. Secondarily, we actually imported less oil under the Biden-Harris administration compared to Trump's. So if you think that we should be more reliant on our domestic production, Biden and Harris were the people for the job. And then third point here, you said that they shut down the Keystone Pipeline that increases prices. The Keystone Pipeline has nothing to do with the conversation about domestic production of oil because that imported fucking oil from Canada, and it was shut down because of a Supreme Court order as it ingressed upon indigenous lands. And it was also shut down temporarily under Donald Trump's administration in 2017 and 2018. And if you think that stopping Canadian imports of oil is bad for how much money we pay for gas, I'm guessing that you very vehemently disagree with Donald Trump's 10% tariffs on Canadian oil because that also reduces the amount of Canadian oil that we get.
First, to address the Canada question at the end, that's geopolitical and we can get into that. But as far as the actual pipeline, the pipeline was a joint Canadian-American project, which was for energy.
That imported Canadian energy into America.
And that is fine.
And also,
Number
no,
one,
it wasn't joint. It was owned by a Canadian company. You could read that on KeystoneXL.com.
There were American companies helping the construction on the American side.
Right, but joint means joint ownership. It was Canadian ownership.
No, I didn't say joint owned, but that's a nitpick. Okay, yes. So the pipeline still is the most cheap way to move oil from one place to another. And that very factually would have at the time contributed to good lower prices on
But it was
gas
unconstitutional.
in some areas.
Dude,
it was not unconstitutional.
Yes. Yeah, that's what the Supreme Court ruled, that it's ingressment upon indigenous lands without the consent of the indigenous tribes violates the Constitution. It was an order from the Supreme Court. And then also, just relating back to my point, if Canadian oil into America is good, tell me that Orange Man bad for tariffing Canadian oil, which reduces their exports to us. Say Orange Man bad. Say it. Say Orange Man bad for reducing Canadian imports.
No.
Wait, okay. So Biden bad when Biden reduces Canadian imports, but Trump not bad when Trump reduces Canadian imports. Are you a member of a cult?
The Keystone Pipeline is a hyper-specific project, which is now dead and 4 years in the past. In our current geopolitical, standing in the world, what Trump is trying to do is assert American economic dominance, and it's going to work.
Okay. It's going to work, says the guy standing in front of the quickest free falls in the U.S. stock market since 2008. The guy standing in front of a projection from the Atlanta Fed of a 3% recess.
So
in GDP
everyone expected economic decline in the short term, but what we're doing is a complete readjustment to the economy, and this isn't the first time. This isn't the first time, and it probably won't be the last time we use tariffs to bring production back to the market, to bring a more equitable trading, what am I trying to say?
Yo, are you like a socialist?
No.
Then why? Wait, because you're saying that we should advocate for market restrictions to bring about more equity in the marketplace.
Tariffs aren't domestic.
Are you
Tariffs
are you
foreign.
one of those commies? Are you a communist, man?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry.
So equitable tariffs is just. I'm sure you know what that means. The European.
I know what a
Union-
tariff is. I don't know what equitable tariffs are.
Well, it's just the idea of, okay, you're charging 25% for X product. We're going to charge 25% for X product.
Not a good plan. Terrible plan. You want to know
Why?
why? Because every time we increase tariffs in other countries, they just increase them on us. A good example of this would be the tariffs that Donald Trump put on China under his administration in 18 or 19. China just increased tariffs back on us in a reciprocal fashion, and then our soybean exports, our agricultural exports, went to shit, and American farmers went bankrupt. Retaliatory tariffs never work to get other countries to reduce their tariffs on us, and that's just
They
an
gave
empirical
billions.
fact.
They gave billions in subsidies to American farmers.
Yeah, because Donald Trump had put shit on the wall by bankrupting them, so then he had to pass the farm bill to bail them out, which, good for
Dude.
him, but I just wish he didn't create the issue in the first place. Can you please give me one example of the U.S. imposing tariffs on China that hasn't led to a reduction in U.S. agricultural exports because of counter tariffs from China?
Sorry, what did you say?
Give me one example of these reciprocal tariffs working. Give me one example of us increasing tariffs on China that led to them decreasing tariffs on us.
This is happening in real time, dude. We're not talking about 2016. We're talking about 2024.
We've been in trade
although
wars
this
with China forever. Just give me one example of this historically working. We obviously don't have the empirical data to suggest it's working now. So how about we look at one point in history where it's worked?
How about we talk about the Embargo Act and the fact that massively benefited the American economy in the long run?
No, I want to talk about one time where we've imposed these counter tariffs on another country in hopes that they would reduce tariffs on us where it's worked. Just give me one example of us imposing tariffs on China where they've then reduced tariffs on us. Because as far as I'm concerned, when we look at the data, every single time America has increased tariffs on China, our domestic agricultural exports have plummeted because they increased tariffs on us. Obviously, what this tells us is that these equitable counter tariffs are not good for the American economy. What a good way to manage other countries that have tariffs implemented on us is to create trade deals with them. Yeah, diplomacy over tariffs is a great way to reduce restrictions on
The trade
imposed in
deals,
America
the
by
trade
other
deals
countries.
can't happen until you've talked them down.
What
we're
did
doing-
Donald
what
Trump
we're
do under
doing-
his first term? Are you denying that Donald Trump was able to broker the USMCA, which reduced tariffs between America, Canada, and Mexico? Or what
The
about the
US
TPP that he pulled out of between like 13 big players on the global stage, specifically designed to reduce tariffs to promote the globalization of commerce? This happens all the time.
The
USMCA and
TPP was
TPP
a
are just
terrible
great
trade
examples.
deal. The TPP was a terrible trade deal.
Yeah, name one economist that agrees with you.
Dog. Okay, number one, we're not just going to fall back on name this guy or name that guy. But I will say economics is a very hard to, it's not a science is what I'm trying to say. And I'm sure you know that too. And we could go around like this all day, but you can easily find economists, if you look it up, that will say that the TPP was not a good idea. Obama,
No, the overwhelming amount
Obama
of economists really support trade agreements between countries to reduce tariffs because they're just good for commerce.
That's because the modern paradigm in economics and the legacy media has just been to propel, America into the global market. It's just globalism, and we're
being in the global market is a very good thing. That is a very good thing because it allows for a comparative advantage in the manufacturing sector in our country and in others to exist. We get to produce the goods that we are efficient at producing, and other countries get to produce the goods that they're efficient at producing. And when we limit the globalization of commerce and we force producers in America to make all these goods, even when they're not as good at it as other countries are, what happens is that inefficiencies are created, the price of goods goes up, the purchasing power of the average American goes down, and the American economy suffers.
So, again, the tariffs are going to cause an adjustment period, and it's probably going to take a year, maybe two, for things to actually, stabilize and for the market to reliably begin growing again, and above 2%.
According to who?
let's say.
Why do so
sorry.
many Trump supporters think that tariffs are going to
Am
have
I
real
asking
impacts
you
in the long term?
according to who constantly? We're having a discourse right now.
Well, I mean, like, why do you think tariffs are good in the long term? I don't think I've ever had any Trump supporter actually explain to me why they're good in the long term. They just kind of say
Because they benefit domestic production, dude.
How? So how are they good in the long term? How are they good in the long term?
The entire
Increasing
reason that
domestic
Trump
production?
threw out the TPP and the entire reason that he renegotiated the free trade agreement for North America and to the USMCA, which has now been thrown out,
Wait, did you agree with the USMCA?
it was a step in the right direction
Okay.
from the original trade agreement.
I want to clarify that the USMCA reduced tariffs. You're saying that a reduction in tariffs was a step in the right direction. Now you look insane.
The goal of
Now
tariffs
you look
is not-
hypocritical. Now I'm sitting over here asking myself, what the fuck is this guy saying? Because I guess when Trump reduces tariffs, it's a step in the right direction. But when Trump increases tariffs, it's also a step in the right direction. What the fuck?
I don't think you understand the point of this doctrine. Like,
I don't understand whatever you're saying, because you're saying that it is a step in the right direction to reduce tariffs and to increase tariffs on the same country, on the same goods, at the same percent simultaneously. That doesn't make sense.
we already had free trade in North America. The USMCA renegotiated it.
They made it freer.
And yeah, because Canada and Mexico were actually still placing tariffs on our products. But
It reduced tariffs. And by the way, Canada only tariffs 1% of imports from our country.
well, that's fine. We're going to see how it pans out.
I have a
but
question. What
again-
percentage of goods
No,
do we
hold
tariff
on.
imported from Canada?
No. I asked you about the
Doesn't wanna
doctrine.
answer that.
I want to explain to you
Doesn't wanna
the
answer that.
actual. I want to explain to you the actual intention of this.
No.
So some of these tariffs are going to go into effect, but it's about giving them the big stick. Like, every country right now that does not go along with the foreign policy of the United States has the imminent threat of 25% tariffs on them. And we've already seen him back off of tariffs on some of these countries. Tariffs are a good thing because they help bring domestic production back to the United States and discourage too much of the market, being controlled by foreign companies, yada, yada.
Yeah, hey,
But-
I'm just going to go and posit this idea real quick. Let's just assume isolationism is a good thing and we need a stronger manufacturing sector in our country. There's significantly better ways to go about it than imposing tariffs on our allies that makes tariffs look insane. Like, for instance, if we just merely invested in the manufacturing sector of our country and promoted and cultivated an economy where our government was incentivizing our producers to invest more into their productive capacities to make more goods for cheaper, well, then American produced goods would be more competitive in the marketplace without tariffs because they cost less money and they're no longer priced out of the markets. Okay? And that increases domestic production in the long term without causing a recession now, without causing inflation now, without destroying relations with our allies now. It is objectively the better way to achieve the goal that you think tariffs will do in 2 years, right? So, and like
Our
argument
allies-
here
our
is
allies place
because
tariffs on us.
there is an alternative to tariffs that are better for a country right now and in the long term. Seemingly, tariffs are bad.